Welcome to the OSDU Debating Workshop. We would like to begin with a short debate to introduce everyone to the Canadian National Debating Format, otherwise known as CNDF. The debate will feature Daniel Barankin, Nicola Perry, Nicole Ratty, and Taegu Kim from Richmond Hill High School. So without further ado, this debate will come to order. The resolution before us today is this House supports the torture of terrorist suspects. Representing the proposition are its first speaker, Nicola Perry, and the second speaker, Daniel Barankin. And representing the opposition are its first speaker, Taegu Kim, and the second speaker, Nicole Ratty. On behalf of the House, I would like to express a sincere welcome to the participants of the workshop. I would also like to welcome our timekeeper, Siddhana Jayakumaran, and I, Kalina Vajanova, am your moderator. Each speaker will deliver an 8-minute constructive speech. The first speaker of each team will also get a 4-minute summary and rebuttal speech. Points of information will be allowed during the constructive speeches only, but not during the first and last minutes of the speeches. Subdana will bang the desk after the first minute, and again with 1 minute remaining to signal the time during which points of information may be raised. For each speech, 15 seconds grace will be allowed. After each speech, I will immediately call upon the next debater to begin his or her address. There will be no points of order or points of privilege. Heckling is also prohibited. Are there any questions from the debaters regarding the rules? I call upon the first speaker, Nicola Perry, to introduce the proposition case for 8 minutes.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Now today, before the House, we have a resolution which we believe is fundamental in supporting freedom and supporting justice for the citizens of our country. And that resolution is that this House would support the torture of terrorist suspects. We're talking about the United States here, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about torturing as a psychological or physical harm upon people which does not lead to death. And we're talking about people here who are suspected to be involved in anything that can potentially harm the American citizens, the American government, and our people who are acting without any political boundaries. That is why we, on side proposition here today, have two main things which we'd like to talk about. We would like to talk about why it is a government's duty to protect its citizens. We're going to talk about the ticking time bomb. No, not the ticking time bomb. The ticking time nuke, because this will happen and it will be big. And then we're going to talk about rights. When do we take them away? When is the government justified in doing so? And why to do so in this situation? So, ladies and gentlemen, today I'd like to tell you what this ticking time nuke theory really is, and why it is the government's role to step in and to protect it from ever happening. Really, we see that if there is ever a time in the government's history when it has a chance to stop an event from happening like 9/11, to stop an event from happening that could potentially harm hundreds or thousands of people. And these people are their own citizens. And in order to do so, a government would have to take away the rights of one person. That government is morally obligated to do so. That government is obligated towards its citizens to protect their rights to safety, and it has to do this because simply taking away that one person or that few number of people from whatever it may be in order to torture them, it is unjustified. Tehu.
What about in Algeria, when the French instituted this policy during the colonial regime, which led to 1.5 million Algerians dead?
Tehu. First of all, we already told you here, we're not going to kill people by torturing. And moreover, we see that in modern day liberal societies, that when we torture people, it's generally, if it goes on too far, it's generally looked upon badly by media. That's why it's kind of is self-regulating. We see that torture, if it goes too far, too many people are going to be angry about it. And as a government, then they're going to regulate itself by that manner. We see that we're not really in Algeria right now. Like, admittedly, it may have worked, but it was killing people. That is not necessarily torture. That is simply murdering people for no reason. So what I was going on with the ticking time nuke point is, if there is ever this situation, a government has to step in because of its obligation to its citizens. A government has that single most important fundamental duty. As a government, it is the reason it is instituted, and it is the reason it is there, because of the citizens. A government is only legitimate and is only acceptable by the citizens who are under the jurisdiction of that government. If a government fails to protect their citizens, then that government is not doing its job. If it has done everything that is possible in order to protect them, and then something happens, that's the only situation that we would say that is somewhat acceptable. However, by not allowing torture to happen to these suspected terrorists, the government is not doing everything in its might to prevent any casualties or any deaths of civilians that may occur in the future. We see that this is an atrocity, and we see that this is something that a government is obligated to do. That is why the United States must support this form of torture. Secondly, I'm going to talk to you about rights. I'm going to talk to you about why citizens in a country such as the United States have their rights, and why people such as these terrorist suspects do not necessarily have the same rights, nor should they be bound by these same rights. So really, let's look at it this way. We see that in a society, people more or less have a social contract amongst one another. We give up certain freedoms in order to gain rights from others. We see that this is one of the fundamental things that occurs within one society, and we see that then there are some people who are outside, who try to be not bound by these things, such as these terrorists. When these terrorists choose not to be bound by the same rights, when these terrorists choose not to follow the same laws and everything in that sense, we believe that they are breaking the social contract that is there between citizens of a government and a society and these terrorists, who are non-government actors, who are acting on their own interests and who have no desire to commit to a social contract. They basically are attempting to do whatever is best in their interests in order to harm as many people as possible in order to institute fear. We believe that that's something wrong, and moreover, we're going to tell you how this really ties in with that social contract. Now, admittedly, we have to look at it in the sense that in society only grants these rights to the people who follow them. Like my partner's going to touch upon this far more later in his speech on how we somehow take away rights from other people, such as prisoners, because they go on and harm the rest of society. We are really paralleling that, and we're really saying that these people do not abide by the same social contract. These people do not abide by the same standards that we have in our society, and we believe that is an obligation that I'll take you in a second. We believe that it's an obligation to protect our citizens who are following these laws, who are committing to these rights, who are giving up their own freedoms to stay in our society, versus those who are breaking the rights of our citizens. Yes?
Okay, Nick, but what about our human obligation not to strip someone's identity away through pain and suffering?
Nicole, are not these terrorists stripping away the rights of our citizens by attempting to do them harm, by attempting to institute fear? We outside government believe that they are doing that. I do not see a way you can prove to us today that terrorists are not in any way whatsoever harmful to our society, to our people, that they wish us harm, not now taking. That these terrorists are people who are trying to take away the rights of our citizens, and as a government, it is our duty to protect those rights. It is our duty to protect our citizens. It is not our duty to protect the rights of people who simply wish us harm, who are not even actors within our government, nor any other government. These are people who simply wish us harm. I'll take you again, Nicole.
So you think that by terrorizing terrorists, we're solving the problem?
We're not terrorizing terrorists. We are telling you here today that we're protecting our people. We are telling you that we are going to torture these terrorists. We are going to do these harms to these terrorists. But it is a justifiable harm that results in a proper ending if it can save the lives of many and only somewhat harm the life of a few. We as a government believe it is justifiable. We as a government believe that is something that we can support. We have talked to you about today. We have talked to you about today about the ticking time theory, or the ticking time bomb. But we really believe that it is that big a deal that one day this is definitely something that could be so potentially harmful to society that the government needs to treat it as such. That the government has this duty to its own citizens to protect them, and if ever this harm exists, if ever this harm should be there, the government should intervene and do whatever is in its power to stop it from happening. And this means torture, ladies and gentlemen. If torture works, in any case, it is something that is justifiable. And we've also told you about why these terrorists do not really abide by our rights, by the social contract, we believe that government has its duty to its citizens first and its citizens primarily. And it's for these reasons that we'd like to propose.